Commander Diana Walker stood at the observation deck of the Interstellar Relations Center, watching the approaching Galactic Council delegation with a mixture of pride and anxiety. After 15 years of humanity's integration into the wider galaxy, Earth was finally hosting its first major xenobiological conference. The center's crowning achievement, the Earth's Peaceful Companions exhibit, was about to make its debut. "Everything's ready in the domestic animal wing," Commander, Lieutenant Raj Patel reported, his tablet displaying green status indicators across the board. "The hamsters are in their habitat, the rabbits are in the petting zone, and the cats are in their enrichment area." Diana nodded, smoothing down her pristine IRC uniform. The aliens' misconception about Earth's wildlife had always amused her, but it had also proved diplomatically useful. When humanity first joined the Galactic Council, their classification as a death world species had caused considerable concern. The revelation that humans kept harmless companion animals had helped soften their image considerably. "What about the aquarium section?" Diana asked, watching as the first anti-grav shuttle touched down on the landing pad. "The goldfish display is ready," Raj replied. "Though I still think we should have included piranhas to show the full spectrum of Earth's aquatic life." "Absolutely not," Diana said firmly. "Remember our mission, we're showing them the gentler side of Earth's ecosystem. The Council is already nervous about having a death world species in their midst. Let's not give them more reasons for concern." The first group of alien delegates began filing into the center's main atrium. Diana recognized Ambassador Xylith of the Centaurian Alliance, their chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the soft lighting. Behind them came Professor Zikta from the Rigelian Science Academy, their tentacles waving in what Diana had learned to recognize as excitement. "Welcome to the Earth's Peaceful Companions exhibit," Diana announced, her translator converting her words into the standard galactic frequencies. "We're honored to show you how humans have formed bonds with some of our planet's gentlest creatures. Everything was going perfectly until they reached the cat habitat." Diana had specifically chosen the most docile-looking specimens, fluffy Persian cats that spent most of their time napping in sunbeams. What she hadn't counted on was the maintenance drone that malfunctioned right above the habitat. The drone's erratic movements triggered something primordial in the cat's brains. In an instant, the supposedly lazy felines transformed into perfect killing machines. They launched themselves at the drone with incredible precision, their retractable claws extended and teeth bared. One particularly ambitious Persian managed to snag the drone mid-air, bringing it down with a hunter's efficiency. The alien delegates recoiled in horror. Ambassador Xylitha's translator emitted a high-pitched squeal of distress. "Those are your gentle companions," they chittered. "They just displayed apex predator hunting tactics." "Well, yes," Diana admitted, watching as the cats celebrated their victory by batting around pieces of the drone. "But they're normally very peaceful." The situation deteriorated further when the commotion attracted the attention of the other exhibits. The rabbits, which the aliens had been cooing over moments before, began thumping their hind legs in warning signals. The hamsters, those supposedly innocent balls of fluff, bared their surprisingly sharp incisors. Even the goldfish started displaying aggressive territorial behavior. Professor Zikta's tentacles were now wrapped tightly around their translation device. "Commander Walker, your Peaceful Companions exhibit appears to be populated entirely by miniature predators and prey species that have evolved sophisticated defense mechanisms. This is hardly what we expected from a presentation about Earth's gentler life forms." Diana felt her carefully crafted diplomatic strategy crumbling. She had wanted to ease the aliens into understanding Earth's complex ecosystem, but now everything was being revealed at once. The cats were still proudly guarding their mechanical prey, the rabbits had formed a defensive circle, and the hamsters were demonstrating their impressive burrowing capabilities. "Perhaps," she said carefully, "this is an opportunity for a more comprehensive discussion about Earth's evolutionary history. You see, even our companion animals retain certain survival instincts." "Survival instincts?" Ambassador Xylitha's translator crackled with incredulity. Your harmless pets just demonstrated hunting techniques that would impress a Voraxian war beast. As Diana watched her alien guests process this new understanding of Earth's wildlife, she realized that maybe this wasn't such a diplomatic disaster after all. Yes, they were shocked, but they were also fascinated. Professor Zichta was already taking detailed notes, their tentacles moving with scientific excitement. Sometimes, she reflected, the truth was better than comfortable misconceptions. Earth's animals weren't simply peaceful companions, they were survivors, adapted to one of the galaxy's most challenging environments. And maybe, just maybe, that would make the aliens appreciate the complexity of Earth's ecosystem even more. Now, Diana said, straightening her shoulders, would you like to learn about how these same cats purr at a frequency that promotes tissue regeneration? In the aftermath of the Peaceful Companions exhibit incident, the Interstellar Relations Center found itself hosting an impromptu scientific symposium. The Galactic Council's xenobiologists couldn't contain their fascination with Earth's supposedly docile pets, and Commander Diana Walker had no choice but to embrace transparency. Let me get this straight, Dr. Vreenex, a respected Andromedan researcher whose crystalline form sparkled under the conference room lights, said. These dogs you keep as companions are descended from pack hunters capable of pursuing prey to exhaustion. Lieutenant Raj stood beside a holographic display showing various Earth canines. Yes, and they've maintained many of those instincts despite domestication. In fact, their social intelligence makes them even more remarkable. The hologram shifted to show a border collie herding sheep. The alien scientists watched in stunned silence as the dog demonstrated complex behavioral patterns, anticipating and controlling the movements of dozens of animals simultaneously. But you said this was a pet. Professor Zichta's tentacles were practically tying themselves in knots with excitement. This creature displays tactical thinking comparable to a hive mind strategic unit. Diana exchanged glances with Raj. They had decided that if they were going to reveal the truth about Earth's pets, they might as well go all in. Perhaps we should discuss the cognitive capabilities of corvids next, she suggested. The presentation on ravens and crows solving complex puzzles nearly caused a diplomatic incident. Several alien delegates demanded to know how humans had managed to keep the existence of miniature avian geniuses secret for so long. They're tool users, Raj explained, showing footage of a crow bending wire into a hook to fetch food. And they can recognize individual human faces, pass knowledge to their offspring, and hold grudges. Grudges? Ambassador Xylitha's translator struggled with the concept. You mean these flying creatures engage in targeted social response modification based on previous interactions? They'll remember someone who wronged them and spread that information through their social network, Diana confirmed. Some researchers have found themselves blacklisted by entire generations of crows. The revelation about Earth's ordinary squirrels nearly caused a mass exodus. The idea that humans casually coexisted with animals that could survive terminal velocity falls, remember the locations of thousands of food caches, and adapt to almost any urban environment seemed to confirm humanity's death world classification in entirely new ways. But surely your aquatic pets are actually peaceful? Dr. Vreenex asked hopefully. The swimming creatures in your homes? Diana pulled up footage of a betta fish flaring its fins at its reflection. Well, they're also known as Siamese fighting fish. The afternoon devolved into a fascinating but chaotic exploration of Earth's pet species. The alien scientists discovered that hamsters could survive falls that would kill larger animals, that cats had manipulated human civilization through self-domestication, and that even goldfish could learn to recognize patterns and perform tasks. Your planet's evolutionary history has produced creatures of remarkable resilience, Professor Zichta observed, their tentacles finally relaxing slightly. It explains much about human psychology. How so? Diana asked, genuinely curious. You evolved alongside these beings, competed with them, formed alliances with them. Your species learned to appreciate and coexist with creatures that combine intelligence, predatory instinct, and survival capabilities in fascinating ways. The professor's translator hummed thoughtfully. Perhaps this is why humans adapt so well to galactic society. You've had practice dealing with complex and potentially dangerous life forms all along. As the day drew to a close, Diana found herself in her office, reviewing the events with Raj. The security feeds showed various alien scientists still lingering around the exhibits, taking detailed notes on behaviors that humans had long taken for granted. Should we tell them about honey badgers tomorrow? Raj asked with a barely suppressed grin. Diana laughed, watching as a group of delegates marveled at a cat sleeping in a seemingly physically impossible position. Let's save something for the next conference. I think they've had enough revelations for one day. Commander, her comm unit chirped. The Rigelian Science Academy is requesting permission to establish a permanent Earth wildlife observation post. They're particularly interested in studying something called raccoons they've heard about. Diana put her head in her hands, trying not to laugh. Tell them we'll discuss it tomorrow. And make sure someone warns them about the raccoons' problem-solving abilities before they set up any food storage systems. The truth about Earth's pets was out, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. After all, if aliens could learn to appreciate the complex nature of Earth's harmless animals, perhaps they'd finally understand why humans had turned out the way they did. Somewhere in the distance, a cat knocked something off a high shelf, just because it could. The Interstellar Relations Center's transformation into an impromptu xenobiological research station was complete by the third day. Alien scientists crowded every exhibit, their research devices humming as they documented behaviors that humans had considered ordinary for millennia. But it was Dr. Vrenek's innocent request that sparked the day's chaos. We wish to observe these creatures in their natural habitat, the crystalline being announced during the morning briefing. Specifically, these domestic environments we've heard about. Commander Diana Walker felt a headache coming on. You want to visit human homes? For scientific purposes, Professor Zikta added, tentacles waving enthusiastically. We've developed theories about how these remarkable creatures have influenced human architectural development. Which was how Diana found herself leading a delegation of alien scientists through a suburban neighborhood, trying to explain the concept of a pet door to increasingly alarmed xenobiologists. Let me understand this correctly, Ambassador Xylith chittered. You deliberately create openings in your protective shelters, for the animals to come and go as they please? Well, yes, Diana admitted. It's more convenient than having to open the door every time. But how do you prevent other creatures from entering? The flap is usually magnetized, Lieutenant Raj explained helpfully. And most pets learn to. He was interrupted by a collective gasp as they watched a neighbor's cat push through a pet door, carrying what appeared to be a small rodent. Is that unit engaging in hunting behavior within its designated habitat? Dr. Vrenek's crystalline structure flickered with excitement. Oh, that's just Mittens, called out Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who had agreed to host part of their tour. She's actually quite lazy most of the time, but she keeps the yard free of pests. The alien delegation spent the next hour documenting how Mittens, supposedly a pampered house pet, demonstrated advanced hunting techniques while simultaneously maintaining her cover as a lazy house cat. The fact that she could switch between deadly predator and furniture ornament in seconds both terrified and fascinated them. But the real revelation came when they visited the Thompson family's house down the street. The Thompsons kept what they called a modest collection of pets, 2 dogs, 3 cats, a parrot and a terrarium of leopard geckos. These creatures, they've formed an interspecies social hierarchy, Professor Zikta observed, watching as the household's complex dynamics played out. The parrot, an African grey named Einstein, was currently giving commands to one of the dogs, who appeared to be following them. The cats had established strategic high ground positions throughout the house, while the geckos watched everything with unblinking interest. Oh yes, Mrs. Thompson said proudly. Einstein here has learned to tell the dogs when it's dinner time. He also mimics my phone notifications to trick us into checking our phones. We're pretty sure he does it for entertainment. The alien scientists were frantically recording as Einstein demonstrated his vocabulary, which included not only words but perfect imitations of the microwave beep, the doorbell, and Mrs. Thompson's voice calling the dogs. "This is tool use," Dr. Vreenex exclaimed. The avian is using acoustic manipulation for social engineering. The situation reached its peak when one of the cats, demonstrating typical feline behavior, pushed a glass of water off a table while maintaining direct eye contact with Mrs. Thompson. Deliberate property destruction as a form of social communication, Ambassador Xylitha's translator crackled. These creatures have learned to manipulate their human hosts through behavioral conditioning. Now wait a minute, Diana started to protest, but she was interrupted by a commotion from the backyard. The dogs, having heard a squirrel in the yard, demonstrated their coordinated hunting behaviors. While one circled around the tree, the other stood guard at its base. The squirrel, far from being helpless, began executing evasive maneuvers that would have impressed a starfighter pilot. The canines are displaying tactical coordination, Professor Zichta noted, while their target demonstrates advanced three-dimensional spatial awareness and risk calculation. "And this is normal?" Ambassador Xylith asked weakly. "Oh, this happens every day," Mrs. Thompson laughed. "You should see what happens when the raccoons try to get into our trash cans. We had to install special locks, but they figured those out too. My husband's pretty sure they're teaching each other the solutions." The alien delegation spent the rest of the afternoon documenting what they called unprecedented levels of interspecies cooperation and competition in a confined space. They were particularly impressed by how the various animals had learned to manipulate humans for food, attention, and privileges. "Your species," Professor Zichta said to Diana as they prepared to leave, "has essentially created a miniature ecosystem within your dwellings. You live alongside predators and highly intelligent beings, treating them as companions while they maintain many of their natural behaviors. It's remarkable." Diana watched as Einstein the parrot ordered the dogs to their beds, the cats performed their evening acrobatics, and the geckos continued their silent observation of everything. "I suppose it is," she agreed. "Though I've never thought of it quite that way." As they left the suburban area, Diana's comm unit buzzed. "Commander," Lieutenant Raja's voice was tense. "We might have a situation back at the center. Remember how the aliens wanted to study raccoons?" Diana closed her eyes. "How bad is it?" "Let's just say they're rethinking their position on Earth, wildlife being harmless. And we might need to redesign our supposedly raccoon-proof waste disposal systems." The day's revelations had proved one thing: Earth's pets weren't just animals that humans had domesticated, they were complex beings that had chosen to form alliances with humanity while maintaining their own remarkable abilities. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand just how significant that was. The Great Escape. The Galactic Scientific Summit was supposed to be the Interstellar Relations Center's crowning achievement. Representatives from 27 alien civilizations gathered to discuss interspecies cooperation and biological diversity. Nobody expected it to turn into what galactic media would later dub the Great Earth Pet Incident. It started with the raccoons. Despite Lieutenant Raja's best efforts, the clever creatures had not only breached the new security measures but had apparently decided to share their knowledge with other Earth animals at the center. Commander Walker, the security AI, announced with what seemed like embarrassment, "The raccoons have organized." Diana rushed to the monitoring station, where she found Raj staring at the security feeds in disbelief. The raccoons had somehow managed to trigger the emergency release mechanisms on multiple enclosures, mechanisms that were supposedly impossible for non-human intelligence to operate. "They're using tools," Raj said incredulously. They watched the maintenance staff and figured out the latch systems. On the screens, chaos unfolded. A group of cats had formed an alliance with the escaped rabbits, working together to access the food storage areas. The parrots were providing lookout services, mimicking security alerts to confuse the staff. Even the hamsters had joined in, using their tunneling abilities to create escape routes. "The summit delegates are arriving in 10 minutes, Diana said, watching as a particularly ambitious squirrel figured out how to operate the elevator. "Please tell me we can contain this." Before Raj could respond, Professor Zikta burst into the room, tentacles writhing with excitement. "Commander! Your Earth specimens are displaying unprecedented levels of cooperative behavior. This is revolutionary." "Professor, this is a security breach, not a scientific demonstration," Diana tried to explain, but more alien scientists were already flooding in, their research devices humming. The next hour was chaos. The escaped animals, rather than running wild, demonstrated complex social behaviors that left the alien scientists in awe. The raccoons had established a hierarchical organization system. The cats were showing strategic thinking that rivaled military operations. Even the goldfish were displaying problem-solving abilities by manipulating the water filtration systems. "Do you realize what this means?" Dr. Vrenek's crystalline form pulsed with academic excitement. "Earth's animals haven't just adapted to human presence, they've developed advanced social structures and tool use capabilities while maintaining their natural survival instincts. A new understanding." As the day drew to a close, Diana found herself in an emergency meeting with the Galactic Council. The escaped animals had been safely returned to their enclosures, though the raccoons had negotiated better food privileges through what could only be described as organized civil disobedience. "Commander Walker," the council chief spoke, their holographic form flickering slightly, "today's events have forced us to reconsider our understanding of Earth's ecosystem." Diana braced herself for diplomatic fallout, but what came next surprised her. "We've been wrong," the chief continued. "We classified Earth as a death world based solely on its environmental challenges and predator species. What we failed to understand was the remarkable complexity of even your smallest creatures." Professor Zikta's research team presented their findings. Earth's animals demonstrated not just survival capabilities, but advanced problem-solving, social cooperation, and adaptability. The very traits that had helped humanity survive their harsh world were reflected in their animal companions. "Your pets aren't simply domesticated creatures," Dr. Vrenek's explained. "They're highly evolved beings that chose to form mutually beneficial relationships with humans. They maintained their survival skills while developing new abilities to thrive in human environments." The summit's focus shifted entirely. Instead of viewing Earth's wildlife as either dangerous or harmless, the galactic community began to appreciate the sophisticated balance that had evolved on humanity's home world. "Perhaps," Ambassador Xylith suggested, their translator humming thoughtfully, "this explains humanity's success in galactic society. You learned to cooperate with and understand complex beings long before you reached the stars." In the following weeks, the Interstellar Relations Center was transformed into the galaxy's premier institution for studying Earth's unique evolutionary history. The raccoons were given their own research grant, though Diana suspected they were more interested in the improved food options that came with it. "You know what's funny?" Raj said one evening, as they watched the sunset from the observation deck. Below them, the evening shift of animal caretakers was discovering that the cats had once again reorganized their enrichment toys in what xenobiologists swore was a primitive attempt at astronomical notation. "What's that?" Diana asked. "We spent all that time trying to convince the galaxy that Earth's animals were harmless, when we should have been helping them understand that they're extraordinary." A patrol of raccoons waddled past, led by what the staff had nicknamed Professor Trash Panda, due to his uncanny ability to decrypt any security measure. They had given up on stopping him and instead started documenting his problem-solving methods. "Maybe that's what Earth really is," Diana mused. "Not just a death world, but a place where intelligence and survival skills can take countless forms. Where even the smallest creatures can surprise you." In the end, the galaxy learned what humanity had known all along, that Earth's animals, from the mightiest predator to the smallest hamster, were far from harmless, they were remarkable. And perhaps that was something worth celebrating. The next morning, Diana found a memo on her desk. The Galactic Council had officially revised Earth's classification. It now read, Class 12 Death World, home to highly evolved social species demonstrating remarkable intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation capabilities. Even the cute ones. She couldn't help but smile. Somewhere in the facility, a raccoon was probably already figuring out how to use this development to negotiate for better snacks. The end.